What's going on, everybody? We have the TFT patch notes for patch 13.7. This is the first patch of set 0.8, or the first adjustment, and it's going to be a big one because of that. Let's take a look at all the changes together, though, because I'm hoping there are going to be a couple things fixed. One of them being, obviously, the Twist of Fate comp. Second one being the Cleansing Safeguard augment. I have heard through the grapevine that they are nerfing it. So let's just go over the summary. Buffs to Gadgettine, Infiniteam, Parallel, Quick Draw. Oh, that was another thing on my list. Quick Draw 3 and 4 felt god-awful. Quick Draw 2 was decent. Renegade, Sure Shot, Lux, Sivir, Kai'Sa, Gnar, Morgana, Bel'Veth, Garen, Samira, Fiddlesticks, Ezreal, and Urgot all being buffed, along with Ace Crest, Ace Crown, Hacker Heart, Late Game Specialist, and 15 total hero augments. I have noticed that both Fiddle and Urgot were a little lackluster this set, considering they're almost autoplays in the previous set. Nerfs to Hacker, Twist of Fate, Warwick, Built Different, March of Progress, Riftwalker Crest, Riftwalker Crown, Star Guardian Crown, and then 7 hero augments are being nerfed. So for Built Different, this one's always interesting because at the start of the set, it's always really good. And then as the set matures, it gets worse and worse and worse. So I think that's just another one of those things happening again. It happens pretty much every set. My theory as to why is because Built Different comps, they're pretty straightforward. And then as people get better and better with like actual comps, Built Different starts to kind of fall off a bit. But of course, like the individual numbers can change that as well. That's not always the reason why. They're also adjusting Laser Core, Gangplank, and Vex, and they're adding Ace in the Hole and returning the Laser Core, Heart, and Soul from before. So pretty big stuff there. Let's get on into the system changes. You are now guaranteed a minimum of 6 full items by stage 5-1. I always thought you did get this, but then recently someone told me that like, oh, if you get 11 components by stage 5-1, you just lose the game. And I'm just like, really? I've never really noticed that myself, but I guess it's been happening to some people. Maybe I've just been lucky and I haven't gotten that, or maybe I just haven't been paying attention. But it's a good balance here. 6 items means you could have 3 tank items, 3 damage items, and maybe like you miss one of them. One of them's like a utility item, or like one's for your secondary carry or tank. So all in all, like 6 I think is a good number. At least it's been what we've been used to. Large changes. All right, so Gadgettine bonus damage and damage reduction per equipped item is being buffed at 5 Gadgettine. I don't think it's going to be played that much. I tried 5 Gadgettine in the previous set and just wasn't as enticing because you have to run a lot of low-cost units in the late game, and that generally isn't that worth it. So 9 to 10%, is that enough? I guess maybe if you have a Nunu 2 with good items, it could be possible, but I'm not going to get my hopes up quite yet. Hacker breakpoints are being changed, removing the 2-piece Hacker 345 are now at 13.6 launch values. Hacker bug fix bonus Omnivamp for the rider now properly only heals from attacks and abilities. So I'm guessing before it healed from other stuff such as like traits and like stuff like Static Shiv maybe. Infiniteam alternatives HP is being buffed a little bit. 40 to 50, 55 to 60, and 90 to 95 at 3, 5, and 7 Infiniteam. This one seems a little odd. I thought Infiniteam was fine, but maybe they nerfed other parts of the comp and that's why they had to buff it back like this. Laser Core, new, all units get a drone at 4 Laser Core, and then drone damage is being reduced a tiny bit. Interesting, 30 to 27, that's an odd number. 50 to 35, 65 to 55, and then 90 to 80. So they're nerfing the second tier of Laser Core by a lot. I believe this is at 4 Laser Core, and again, it makes sense because you get drones on all your units now, but it makes it less reliant on hitting that 5 Laser Core, which I think overall is pretty nice. Non-champions no longer get drones. This includes Hakrim, Zac, and training dummies. I didn't even know that they got them. These units always interact really weirdly with the game. Parallel Ultimate Ezreal bonus duplicates is now being changed from 1 to 2. And then Quick Draw bonus projectile damage is being changed from 55 to 70, 120 to 140, and then 185 to 220. I don't really think this fixes the problem that we highlighted at the beginning where people are running 2 Quick Draw, but they're not really going into 3 or 4. Definitely not 3. Maybe 4 is interesting. 185 to 220 is a pretty big buff, but 120 to 140 doesn't seem that big. Percentage-wise, the jump is around the same. It's around like I think 15% increase or something like that. But just looking at it visually, it doesn't seem that appealing to me at least. Renegade base damage is being increased, and this is going to be at the final stage of Renegade, so that's like a very small change. It's kind of hard to hit that threshold, but I mean, if you do, you do. Renegade's additional bonus damage for last one standing is being buffed at 5 Renegade and 7 Renegade, And then Spellslinger AP is being nerfed at 4 Spellslinger, makes sense. Nerfed at 6 and nerfed at 8. I feel like 8 should be left alone because it's so hard to get. But nerfing at 4 for sure needs to be done. I don't know by how much though. Maybe you need to nerf it by a tiny bit here and then nerf the champion a tiny bit. 6 I feel like was fine too, but I guess we have different thoughts on that. Most of the comps, they just hung around 4 Spellslinger. No one really reached for 6 that often, unless you got like the crest or something. But like, if you did get those, I don't think it was like that out of hand, but to each their own. Sure Shot bonus AD every 4 seconds is being buffed up by 1 at 2 and 3 Sure Shot, and then buffed up by 2 at 4 Sure Shot, and then buffed up by 1 at 5 Sure Shot. Okay. I never really reached for the higher Sure Shots. I'm kind of just like a 2 or 3 Sure Shot type of guy. But you know, if you get a lot of the emblems, then go for it. Now onto the units tier 1. Gangplank Trial by Fire damage is being buffed up a tiny bit. I did notice that Gangplank's carry augment Flaming Ricochet was kind of a little bad. Not bad, but just a little mediocre, at least in terms of its overall performance. Gangplank Trial by Fire no longer cleanses crowd control effects while casting. And then Lucian Chrono Barrage damage is being nerfed a tiny bit. And then Lux Lucent Singularity damage is being buffed a bit. And then Lucent Singularity missile speed is also being increased. So for Spellslingers, you actually get a slight early game buff, which could be nice. So maybe the Spellslinger nerfs so far don't hurt that much because you do get a slight early game bump. However, we have to read the whole patch before making like all our judgments. Onto tier 3, Kaisa is losing 50 health, losing AD as well, but her damage is being increased. So higher risk, higher reward when you play her. Kaisa's in a bit of a weird spot right now. I'm not sure if that's because Quick Draw is kind of ass right now, but there's no like Kaisa comp that I've seen like that reliable or like that consistent. I've definitely seen it being tried with like a Star Guardian build, but nothing that convincing quite yet. So hopefully maybe this brings her into the forefront because she will deal a lot more damage. Nar's starting mana is being buffed a bit, so he casts a bit faster. He's also gaining 5 armor and Amar. And then Morgana being buffed up by 50 HP. Dark Binding damage is being buffed up as well. Interesting. I thought Morgana was actually in a fine spot. I pretty much take her if I need the penetration effects. If not, I forget about her. But I guess maybe you want her played in both scenarios. I don't really think so. I feel like she has a purpose, and if you have that fulfilled through Last Whisper or Static Shiv, then you don't need her. But interesting to think about. Vex Shadow Surge damage is being buffed up a little bit. However, third cast Gloom now deals reduced damage to enemies after the first enemy hit. By how much? Okay, it's going to be reduced by quite a bit. 210 to 150, 315 to 225, and 510 to 370. I guess that makes her less reliable on the third cast, but does a bit more burst damage up front. Not by much, though. Overall, this is definitely like weaker, but especially since this was such a big AoE. Hopefully, there's still a spot for Vex, but mascots were definitely overperforming in the last patch. Units tier 4, so Bel'Veth being Bel'Veth definitely needs some love. Buffed up HP and AD. Garen got a small HP buff, and then his mana is being changed a bit, is being reduced. So Garen should be casting a lot more now. Garen Mecha Justice AD ratio is being nerfed a bit. Someone did tell me about an AD Garen build that was running around. It wasn't like that great, but it was something fun to try. But I guess they're putting a stop to that before it gets too popular. Garen Mecha Justice stun duration is also being buffed. Oh, wow. Garen's gonna be pretty good. He's pretty much like the classic 4-cost stun bot. Whenever you increase their stun, that's always like a huge buff for them. Like, who cares about how much damage they do? And he's gonna be casting more. Garen should be fun to play. Misfortune bullet time first bullet damage is being nerfed a tiny bit, and then like literally a hair. 35 to 32, 55 to 50. And then the subsequent bullet damage is being nerfed a tiny bit as well. Anima Squad's so weird. I don't know. I feel like it was actually in an okay spot. Maybe, is Misfortune the problem? I feel like Vayne should have more of a role to play in the Anima Squad builds. So I guess nerfing Misfortune, but then they like didn't buff Vayne. I'm not saying Vayne needs buff because she's obviously usable in the duelist comps, but I'm just thinking whenever you play Anima Squad, and unless you get spread shot, you're pretty much never itemizing your Vayne at all. But I feel like she should get like, not a lot of love, but like a little bit more love than she does now. Samira Flare is now interruptible, and then it should fizzle less often. Okay. if this part is true, Samira is going to be insane because she just bugs out so often. I had my friend play, and he had a Samira 3-star, and he got 3rd because the ult kept fizzling, which is hilarious, right? Because you can't control that. It's like, does it fizzle more at 2-star or 3-star? Who really knows? But like, you really feel the effects when it's supposed to kill everything and it just fizzles. Twisted Fate, it's time to duel. Blue card damage is being nerfed a tiny bit. And then it's time to duel. Red card damage is being nerfed a tiny bit as well. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I forgot Twisted Fate even had different cards. All I know is that whenever I play Twisted Fate, he absolutely smashes everyone into oblivion. So these are small nerfs, but you have to remember that the Spell Slinger got nerfed as well. Overall, like, hopefully he still should be playable. I really hate when Riot just absolutely destroys comps, and it seems like they held back a tiny bit. Reading these numbers, I think he still would be good. It depends on if they buff other stuff, but like, based on last patch, like, it was by far the most popular comp, not even close, and it doesn't look like it's getting killed by any means. Warwick Hack and Slash cast now triggers on attack effects every 2 attacks instead of every attack. Okay, that's pretty sizable nerf, right? Warwick's so annoying. I feel like hacker interactions are really annoying this set because it either completely demolishes you or you just completely win the game because you're on the other side. I feel like it's different than Assassins from previous sets. I think I prefer Assassins to the Hackerim, even though Hackerim's a bit more creative because you could hacker stuff that normally doesn't jump, such as the Warwick, the Camille's, things like that. Tier 5 units, Fiddlesticks Dark Harvest damage is being bumped up just a little bit. Again, as I was saying before, I miss Fiddle and Urgot because I'm so used to playing them. Wow, Urgot got a mana buff. Holy cow, that's a huge mana buff. Wow. Ultimate Ezreal getting a bit of an AD and AS buff, and then it also fixed a bug where his spell was wider than intended. Interesting to think about. So if his spell is wider than intended, that means he was hitting more people, but to compensate for that, they're adding in AD and AS buffs here. They say Ezreal should be in a stronger state, especially with the buff to Sure Shot and Parallel. So what I'm thinking is, I don't really care about the width that much. All I know is that whenever I play 2-star Ezreal, sometimes he leaves the backline at like 1 HP, so maybe this 5 AD actually makes a big difference. I'm just like brainstorming out here, but like, who cares how wide it is when you just need to kill certain units in the backline, and maybe this does make the difference there. Not to mention, he does have Sure Shot and Parallel buffs. Now onto the hero augments. Hero augments, let me know what you guys think about them in the comments. I've heard mixed reviews. I think like when they first came out, people loved them, but then as time went on, people started to not like them as much. I actually kind of like them a little bit. What I have the most trouble with is trying to guess when they're going to happen, because sometimes you plan your game around like a 4-cost augment and then it just never happens, or like a legendary augment pops up and then you have to like change your game plan. That's the only like weird thing I think that you have to play around. But Kale Righteous Rage bonus AS is being buffed up a bit. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone take this. Hyperbolic Time Chamber, 1 XP per 2 casts is being changed to 2 XP per 3 casts. That's a pretty big difference. Silas Kingslayer bonus damage nerfed a little bit. Anti-Pyromania tooltip clarity improved. Stun duration is now 2 seconds instead of 1.5. Jinx Get Excited AS buff duration is being nerfed a bit. Oh, so they're nerfing some of the anima augments. Interesting. Cleansing Safeguard, you know, in their patch preview, they didn't nerf this, and I was about to release a video of the worst game ever of Lee Sin Cleansing Safeguard. Pretty much what happened in that game was I was playing it, and I started the game with 2 Lee Sins. I had 1 from the orb from taking the augment and 1 on my bench. And then on 3-2, I rolled down 40 gold to 10 gold, did not hit a single Lee Sin, so I was Lee Sin 1, and I also didn't hit a Sona. And pretty much the whole game, I was bleeding out until stage 4 or something. I forget when. And I hit a Lee Sin 2, and then I got 4th place that game, despite hitting absolutely nothing and having no econ that game, which is pretty much a Christmas miracle, right? Because if you don't hit and you're still getting 4th place, that's actually like so oppressive, right? Because if you do hit, you get like 2nd, 1st, things like that. But yeah, pretty big nerf that I'm looking at it now. Is it gonna kill the augment? I don't really know, because I've seen Lee Sins without the augment be super tanky. So maybe the strength is in the cleansing part where he removes debuffs. He removes like sunders, he removes healing debuffs. And because of that, it makes the heal really, really powerful. But the mana reduction's pretty big. That's probably like the biggest nerf. Not so much the healing here. Did they need to touch both of them? Honestly, I don't really know. They must have had a reason to come to this, but I'm just thinking if we have a patch where Cleansing Safeguard is completely untakeable, that's also welcome here. Malphite Rock Solid armor bonus is being nerfed a tiny bit, so they're hitting the mascots a little more, like the Vex builds. Pike Your Cut, 1 shop refresh per 2 casts is being changed to 1 guaranteed shop refresh plus 1 per 3 casts. Okay. Does he even cast 3 times, even if you put like infinite items on him? I feel like this augment is just like trade sector, right? But like a little different. Sivir Mana Tempering starting AD is being buffed up by 5. Yasuo Winds of the Wanderer. His tornado now strikes in a line across the entire board. Oh, so it doesn't stop a bit. Okay. I always thought it did go across the entire board, but I guess not. Yasuo now considers his increased range when determining what position to dash to. Very interesting. So I'm guessing you could hit a lot of backliners now. Nara Synchronous Plating, starting armor and MR being buffed by 20. Holy cow. Jack's Relentless Assault AS per stack is being buffed a bit. Grandmaster Training base AD is being nerfed a bit. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I kind of miss Jack's reroll. I'm not going to lie. I know it's like kind of a cringe comp, but it was very therapeutic to play because you just knew what was going to happen the entire time. Kaisa Multi-Shot, every 2 attacks is being changed to every 2 projectiles. Multi-Shot now grants 10 AP. Shen Anomalous Amplification has been reworked into Time Knife. Gain a Shen, his spell costs 10 less mana, and after casting a spell, his next 3 attacks deal bonus true damage equals to 250% of his armor. I really hate augments on tanks that make them do a lot of damage, but it does have the 10 less mana, so I guess that's something to look at as well. I wonder like how much armor you could actually stack on him to make that work really well. Vex Joy Siphon heals all allies is being changed to heals the 2 lowest health units on your team, and then the heal percent is being doubled to kind of compensate for that. Aatrox Deathbringer bonus damage being buffed up a little bit. Darken Assimilation is going to be nerfed. Echo Destructive Resonance damage amp is being buffed up a tiny bit. Again, same thing as the Shen thing. I don't like the tank augments that just do a lot of damage. I feel like it's interesting in that you play them differently when you have the augment, but when their identity is purely a tank, it's just so strange to kind of work around. I get that making a lot of hero augments is very difficult to do, but I think the ones that are very interesting is stuff like Category 5, where Janet turns from a support into a carry, but I think that's a well-executed kind of shift. Another example is like Nasus stacks on stacks. It kind of changes the identity of the champion, but it's in a fun way. I don't think Echoes is a fun thing. Same with Garen's thing as well. But full power to the sword, mana reduction is being changed from 40 to 30, and then the AD scaling is being bumped up a ton. By the way, I'm so sorry for the background noise if you guys are hearing it. There's just construction going on right beneath me. Warwick Well-Fed autos per HP is being changed from 2 to 3. Well-Fed starting HP is being nerfed a bit, so you now get more stacks, but the starting's a little weaker. Overall, is that a buff or a nerf? I think it does make it more fun nonetheless because more stacks is kind of like fun to do. Fiddlestick Scarier Crow now has a new effect. Fiddlestick spell can critically strike. Syndra Not in Vain starting mana being buffed from 30 to 40. And then Not in Vain AS on Death 40% to 50%, and then Urgot Rising Tide AS being changed from 30% to 40%. I know the stats on Urgot's augments, both of them weren't that great, but again, I think it's because the champion was a little weaker, but they also buffed him, so we have to keep that in mind too. So maybe did they need to do this? I'm not really sure. Let's move on into the regular augments now. Ace Crest now only given at 4-2. Ace Crest now grants a Draven instead of 2 gold. Ace Crown has been replaced with Ace in the Hole, and only given on 4-2, gain an Ace Emblem, a Draven, a Misfortune, and a Wow. Okay, so you don't get an item, but you get like a lot of champions. That's really, really interesting. Build different. This one is being nerfed slightly at all stages, both in HP and AS. Hacker Heart is being changed to granting a Pike. I don't know why it didn't grant a Pike before, but glad that they're changing that. Laser Core Crescent Soul have been re-enabled. Late Game Specialist Gold is being changed from 40 to 44. March of Progress Initial XP is being reduced from 4 to 2. That's a pretty big nerf. March of Progress, I feel like it was in like a slightly above average spot. So did it need a nerf? I don't really think so, but I guess they went through with it anyways. Riftwalker Crest now grants 2 gold instead of a pike. Really? I wonder why. Riftwalker Crown, instead of a ZZ Rot, you now get a Sparring Gloves. Why? Okay, they should have learned their lesson from Heart Crown. Remember, Heart Crown used to give a ZZ Rot portal, and then they removed that because it's too broken. Why did they give it back to a new trait and then remove it later? Because obviously it's like beyond ridiculous, right? But yeah, you just get like such a strong support item, especially if you get it in the early game, and it's just very oppressive, you know? Star Guardian Crown is now only giving a tier instead of a Chalice of Power. Oh, I didn't know it was that good. Let's move on into the small changes. So Prankster healing is being buffed at 3 Prankster. I don't see 3 Prankster that much anymore, but maybe with the Gnar buffs, we'll see it a little more. Riftwalker, the maximum number of star levels that contribute to Zac is now 9. Underground, gold from cash outs now auto collects. And then tier 4, Nico Hot Blossom frog damage is being buffed at 3 star. Holy cow. And then the big damage being buffed slightly at 1 and 2 star, and then decently at 3 star. So these are actually like tiny Nico buffs, but honestly, like, I don't think this changes that much. Hence why it's in the small changes. Units tier 5, Janna should better use Lucky Gloves and Infiniteam emblem. She'll be equipped with better items now. Okay, that's pretty cool too. Bug fixes, okay, now the set is called like glitched out or whatever, so hopefully like, there are a lot of glitches right now. Let's read through most of them. Hacker bonus Omniband for the Rider now properly only. Okay, we already saw that one. Still empowering Syndra Hero Augment Empowered Reserves text updated to include non-champion items that occupy bench slots. Functionality unchanged. Knock knock. Syndra's Force of Will no longer knock up units with CC immunity. I must still typo this. Fix typos on Infiniteam related augments. Silver Hero Augment time and a half now grants gold after player combat rounds and checks her attack damage at the very start of the next round. I always wondered how this worked, but it is a little annoying because AD items are percentage based, so you don't actually know how much AD you're adding to Sivir unless you memorize what her base AD is, which is a little annoying. Admin gold drop percentage for every 5 seconds is now properly 25%. Wait a minute. I swear I had this once and I was getting no gold from it. Was it actually a bug? I thought I was just really unlucky. Was it giving too much or too little? Maybe it's the opposite of what I experienced and it was like giving it too much, but maybe I just got unlucky or something. Gadgeteen versions of exclusive items should now properly be exclusive with their normal and radiant versions. So I'm guessing that's with like the unique items. Sunfire board now lists the correct burn amount in its tooltip. Are training dummies really a grand challenge? Fiora's Hero Augment Grand Challenge now specifies it works on all units, not just champions. Roll toll. Nunu's ability tooltip to say briefly stuns to reflect ability behavior. I'm glad that they are clarifying this. Syndra ability tooltip updated to say briefly knocked up to reflect ability behavior. Lulu will no longer walk up before casting her spell. Wow, that's actually a huge Lulu buff. You no longer have to like frontline her or second row her. Fixed a bug where Pantheon wouldn't shield himself if the target was dead. You 2-starred what? Fixed a bug where anvils and tomes from Carousel were combining. Wait, what? I've never seen that. Unlooty. Fixed a rare bug where players could get too little loot from stage 1. Okay. Maybe like we've been getting hit by this and we just didn't know. You know how some games you're just like losing and you don't know why? Maybe this was why. A slow draw. Fix an issue where quick draw would delay Lucian's auto attacks. Double up. Fix a bug where your lesser rune of allegiance could result in waiting 7 rounds for it to regenerate instead of the usual 5. And then they also fixed a bug where your runes of allegiance could take 1 extra round to regenerate. I didn't even know that they regenerated. Overall, like, I'm glad that they didn't, at least I think they didn't completely kill TF. It's definitely going to be reduced though, because there are like 4 TF players per game. If there are just 2 of them, I'm happy with that. Cleansing Safeguard having big nerfs, happy with that too. Legendaries, Urgot and Fiddle, I'm excited to play them. Kaisa, hopefully she finds her role in this set. I made a video in the start of set 8 saying like champions like Kaisa, they don't really belong in TFT because they're like very awkward to play. But the recon build definitely proved that wrong and Kaisa was very playable in the last set. But this set, she's running into the problem that I was kind of talking about. So hopefully people realize what's going on there. Quick draw. I don't know if the changes are enough to go for like 3 or 4 quick draw, but we'll have to see. Sure Shots and Infiniteam. Infiniteam should be a little scary next patch. I feel like they were already good now, and they're going to unlock a new potential in this next patch. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What comps are you most excited to play? What was the change that you liked the most? And I hope to see you all on Friday where we update the meta snapshot to go over the best comps to play. And pretty much it's going to be updated every Friday, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. I got to end this recording early because there's so much construction going on, but I hope to see you all there.